Hello everybody, welcome back to Reading for Vocabulary. Hey, do you like robots? If you do, that's great because that's the subject of Lesson 10. We're going to talk about robots. Specifically, we're going to talk about the worker of the year. So, let's learn about robots. Yeah, sounds interesting, right? Think about different kinds of robots. And different things that robots can do. So two things, right? Different kinds of robots and the things that those robots do. Are you ready? Let's first take a look at a picture here. This is a kind of a confusing picture, isn't it? What is it? It looks like something maybe out of Matrix, the movie Matrix, right? What we can see is a lot of machinery, right? There's a lot of machinery. Oops, let's write that slowly. Machine. Of course, you know the word machine, but we're going to say machinery. Because when we talk about many machines working together, we can say machinery. And these are actually what kind of machines? They are robots. And they're in a factory and they build things like cars or big pieces of big things that we use. Okay? So this is a factory and there's a lot of machinery and there's many robots in a factory. Okay, let's begin now with the vocabulary. Our first word, oh no, that's too bad, right? She's falling down. She made a mistake. What is another word for mistake? We can say error. That's a little himdero because you have the two R's. Error, error. An error is a mistake. If you make a mistake, you make an error, okay? So she made an error, and that's too bad. I hope it doesn't hurt, right? Okay, next one. Now, here, a person who has something. Of course, you know this type of scene. You've been to coffee shops or you've been to stores many times. The person behind the counter or in the store is a person who has something. They are the owners. Sometimes they're the owners. The owner of the store or the owner of the coffee shop, of the restaurant, whatever. The person who owns the place, that is the owner. They're not always the owner. Sometimes they are the worker, right? But somebody who has something. Do you have anything? If you have something like your book bag or your pencil, you are the owner. You are the owner of your bag or your pencil or your book, right? Or your toy or your video game. You are the owner because you have it. You have something. Okay, next one. Something made by people to do work. That's a head scratcher. Something made by people to do work. What is it? We talked about it before. It's a machine, right? I told you machinery is when you have many machines working together in one place. We call it machinery. But one is a machine. It's something people make it to do work for them. Of course, our modern lives are very easy because we have many machines that do our work. A car is a machine that does our work. We don't have to walk, right? Walking is work, right? But we can ride. So the machine does our work for us, right? Okay, next one. Looks interesting, like a detective is looking for something. Something that helps to solve a problem. You guys know Sherlock Holmes? Do you know Sherlock Holmes? I hope so. Sherlock Holmes is a very famous detective in British literature, right? Sherlock Holmes is a very famous detective. A detective goes to the scene of a crime and he looks with a magnifying glass. He tries to find information that will help him solve a problem. What do we call those little pieces of information? We call them a clue. A clue. And if you have many, usually you have many clues, right? Detectives look for clues at the scene of a crime. Maybe not just one, but maybe there are several. Fingerprints, maybe old clothes, blood. Ooh, I wonder what happened, right? But these are clues that help us to solve a problem, especially when we want to know who did something. Okay? Okay, next one. Holiday. Oh, very nice, right? Do you want a holiday? Is it time for a holiday? Maybe you think so. This is a very nice place to take a holiday. What's another word for holiday? We can say vacation. 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 Okay? So actually, it's interesting. British people, British English, they usually say they're going on holiday. I'm going on holiday. Americans are more commonly say vacation. I have a vacation coming up. I'm going on vacation. So we go on holiday, or go on a vacation. British people will say go on holiday. I am going on holiday. Americans will say I'm going on a vacation. Or you could just say I'm going on vacation. That's okay too. Okay, next one. Okay, what's going on here? Do you know how to play tennis? Do you have a tennis coach? If a person tells someone how to do something, there's a verb for that. You're probably thinking teach, right? Teach is good, that's true, but there's another word that means to tell someone how to do something. What is that word? You may not have heard of it before. It's direct. But if you think about it, you have heard this word before, especially if you like movies, right? When people make movies, there are many actors and actresses, right? Well, there's a person in charge who's telling the actors and actresses how to act, how to perform in the movie. We call that person a director, a movie director. A movie director, because that is a person who directs the actors and actresses on how to do something. So direct is also used when we want to say that something is telling another person how to do something. Someone or something is telling another thing or person how to do something. That is direct. And usually direct is on the spot, right? It's telling someone how to do something right now. Okay, of course you can also use teach, right? But it's a little bit different, right? Teachers usually give you knowledge. Directors tell you how to do something right now. Okay, so it's a little bit different, but they're very similar. Okay, next one. 7. Having many parts. What is that? Okay, it looks like art. Is it a type of machine? What do you think it does? Maybe it makes people invisible. That would be cool, huh? But I don't know what it does. But anyway, it's having many parts. There are a lot of parts on it, right? It looks, what does it look? It looks very complex. It looks very complex. Complex means it has many parts. It's very, has so many different parts, it's very difficult to figure out. It's complex. Another word, complicated, right? Complicated. You could also use that word. Complicated. Complicated. Complicated, well, that's a complex word. It has many letters, okay? So that's very interesting. Complex has many parts. It's complicated. It has many parts. It's very difficult to figure out. Okay, next one. Uh-oh, this guy's stupid. What's he doing? 조심해! 아저씨! Right? He's smoking, and these are firecrackers. If that ash falls, he's gonna blow up. He's crazy, right? Dangerous. What's another word for dangerous? Whoa, this is a complex word. Hazardous. 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 Of course, if you just say hazard, hazard is danger. OUS means it's an adjective. You're describing some place or some situation. Hazardous. Ooh, that place is hazardous, or that situation is hazardous. Extremely, extremely, normal, right? Extremely hazardous. This guy is crazy. He's not very smart. Okay, next one. Oh no, she looks like she's tired, very tired. What's another word for very tired? We say fatigued. 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 That's a little difficult. If you are fatigued, you are very tired. Maybe she's been doing her homework too much. She's very tired. She is fatigued. Okay, next one. A person who works. Now, a lot of people, a lot of workers have very difficult jobs, right? They work with their hands. They lift things. They use tools to do things. What do we call them? We call them workers, right? Just a worker, a worker. For example, a construction worker. Construction is Kongsujung, right? Kongsujung. That's construction area, right? So a person who works there is a worker, construction worker. But you can also say office worker, right? Office worker, you could also say that. So people who work are called workers very easily. That's a very easy word. Okay. Next one, to give something in exchange for money. So in this picture, this person looks like he's helping them to I almost said the word. I don't want to say it yet, okay? They want to get rid of their house, but they're not going to give it away. They're going to what? They're going to sell their house, right? They're going to sell their house. And look at the word in the picture here, sold. Sell is an irregular verb. So we say sell, sold, sold because it's past. They sold the house. They exchanged the house for money. They didn't give away the house, right? They want money in return for the house. Have you ever sold something? Maybe you had like an old doll or an old toy that you don't want anymore, but you don't want to throw it away. Maybe you could sell it to a friend, or maybe a book or a video game that you're finished with. You don't want it anymore. You might sell it to somebody else. So you exchange it for money. Okay, next one. What's this? This is a machine that sucks dirt and air off the floor. So it's, right? It sucks it up. What do we call this? We call it whoa, that's a big word, vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaner. Okay? You know this machine, right? Maybe you're playing your game and your mom starts using the vacuum cleaner. You're like, Mom, it's too noisy, right? It drives you crazy. But hey, mom has to clean, right? Maybe you should use the vacuum cleaner. Help mom out, right? So that's good. So don't complain if the vacuum cleaner, you hear the vacuum cleaner and you're trying to do something because you want to have a clean house. You don't want dirt all over the floor, dirt and dust. And if you have a dog, little hair all over the floor, you want to be able to suck that air up with a vacuum cleaner. By the way, the vacuum cleaner is another machine, right? So it's another example of many machines that make our lives easier. It does the work for us. It's very easy to use a vacuum cleaner instead of a broom, right? A broom is dirty and difficult to use. Vacuum cleaner is much easier. Yes, it's noisy, but it's easier. Okay, next one. To control a car. Now, actually, the word is in this picture, right? The word is drive, and we can see that word right here, drive, right? But this word is driver. So, of course, in English, many verbs we can change to noun, and we can say the person who does it, right? Before we saw worker. If we just use work, that's a verb. Worker is a person. Drive is a verb. Driver is a person. She will be a driver. She is learning. She is a student driver. So she is learning to drive. To drive is to control a car. It's also an irregular verb, so it changes form for the past tense. We say drive, drove, driven. Drive, drove, driven. Okay, so that is to control a car. It's to drive a car. Can you drive a car? Probably not yet, but don't try. It's dangerous, right? It's hazardous. But when you're older, you can learn how to drive a car. But be careful, always. It's a dangerous machine. It's a hazardous machine. Be careful, be safe, and you'll be okay. Okay. A very large sea. So if you can see water all around for as far as you can see, and maybe it takes you days to sail across that sea, we call that an ocean, right? There are only a few big oceans in the world, right? There are only a few, and they're very big, like the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, right? We call those really big areas of water, we call them an ocean. Smaller areas are called seas, like the Mediterranean Sea, the Caribbean Sea, right? Those are smaller areas of water. Next one, a short time to rest. Before we talked about workers, right? Workers are people who do work. Well, they can't work all the time, right? We need to take a break. We need to drink something or to eat something or go to the bathroom. In that case, we need to take a break. Take a break, right? Take a break. So we usually use it in this expression. Let's take a break. Do you want to take a break? Hey, everybody, it's time to take a break. So take a break means to stop working and to rest for a little bit. Okay, next one. Wow, that's great. If you can throw a dart and you can hit exactly in the center, no mistake, no error, you have hit it perfectly. Perfect, it's perfect. No mistakes. It's perfect. It is perfect. So that is a perfect shot. In this case, we would say it's a perfect shot. Perfect, right on the middle dot. It's perfect. Okay, let's go over our vocabulary exercises now. How well do you remember the words we just studied? What we're going to do here is we have many sentences. We need to choose the word that best fits in the blanks in these sentences. So, these are our words here. We have 8 words. Let's review those before we look at the exercises. The first word is error. Error. Okay? Next is owner. Owner. The next one is machine. Machine. The next one is clue. Clue. The next one, vacation. 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 Okay? Complex. Complex. Next one, long word. Hazardous. 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 Next one is direct. Direct. Okay, let's take a look at these sentences and figure out which word belongs in those blanks. Okay? Number 1, the beep of this tall building is very rich. Okay, so usually people are rich. And think about it. If someone has a tall building, if someone has a tall building, wow, that's a lot of money. That person is very rich. So what do we call a person who has something? Whether it's a tall building or just a small pencil. We call that person the owner. The owner. By the way, we use the because there's only one. There's only one owner of the building. Okay? The owner of the building, right? If there's a pencil, somebody owns that pencil. Who is that person? That's only one person. So we don't say a owner of the pencil. That's weird because a means one of many. But there's only one owner of this particular pencil. So we say the owner of this pencil. If only one person owns the building, then it's the owner of the building. Now it's true, many people can own a building, that's true. And we could say one of the owners of this building. But in this case, we're talking about the owner. That means there's only one person. So usually we use the with owner because usually there's only one person who owns something. Okay? If there are many people who own the building, then we can say one of the owners. But in this case, there's just one person. He's very rich. Wow. Okay. 2. You should push this button to turn on this what? What do you turn on by pushing a button? What thing here is turned on by pushing a button? Usually when you push a button, it makes electricity go to a certain thing. It's probably a thing that uses electricity to do people's work. So what do we call that thing? we call that thing a machine, right? A machine, usually you push a button and it turns on. Think about your computer. Your computer is a machine. You push a button, it turns on. Your vacuum cleaner is a machine. Usually you can push a button on the vacuum cleaner. Sometimes they have a switch, but it's a switch or a button. You push it and it turns on, okay? Okay, so that's a machine. Number 3, I asked him to beep the project. You asked him to do what with the project? Now, what word would fit in there? If you want somebody to take control of a project, right? You want him to direct the project and to tell other people what to do. So he tells other people what to do on the project. You asked him to direct the project. Okay, next slide. 4, 5, and 6. Number 4, I'm going to visit Jeju Island, Jeju-do. Have you ever been to Jeju-do? But anyway, I'm going to visit Jeju-do Island during the summer, beep. Now, when people have time off, right, and they want to go on a holiday, right, they usually go somewhere. They have a holiday destination. Another word for holiday, especially during the summer when you don't have to go to school, we can say summer vacation. Summer vacation. You also have a winter vacation. It's good being a student, right? You have a lot of time off in the summer. You have a lot of time off of school in the winter. We can call it summer vacation or winter vacation. What will you do in the summer vacation? Or what will you do during the winter vacation? Okay, so summer vacation, winter vacation. This person's going to visit Jeju-do on their summer vacation. Okay, or during their summer vacation. Number 5, the problem was more beep than I thought. So think about this. There's a problem, right? And it's more something than you think. If you think, okay, I have a problem, maybe you think, I'm going to solve it, it's going to be easy. But then you see the problem, you're like, oh wow, this problem has many more parts, or many more things about it that I didn't think about. So it is more what than I thought. What is something that has many parts to it? It's more complex than I thought. This problem is more complex than I thought. Before I thought it was easy, but then I start doing the problem, oh my gosh, it's more complex than I thought. It's more difficult than I thought. Okay, number 6. I have no beep to help me solve the problem. If you want to solve a problem, right? You need some information that will help you find the answer. We talked about that, right? What are something that helps people solve a problem? Little things here and there. What is something that would help people like Sherlock Holmes solve the problem of like a crime scene? Who did it, right? So what word fits there? I have no clues. I have no clues to help me solve the problem, right? You could say I have no clue, but usually clues, there's more than one clue at for a problem. There are usually many clues. But you could say I have no clue, or usually it's more common to say I have no clues to help me solve this problem. Now sometimes people will say, do you know the answer? And a very common expression is, well, I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. That's kind of just a set expression that people will say, I don't even have one single clue. I don't have a clue. Or he doesn't even have a clue. Means he's kind of dumb. He doesn't understand how to do the problem. But don't use that, okay, expression, he doesn't have a clue. Better to say, let's help him. Okay, let's help him solve the problem. Okay, next 2, 7 and 8. I felt foolish when I made an beep in my calculations. Well, right there, and we know that it's going to start with a vowel, right? But what's the other part of the sentence that we can use to figure this out? I felt foolish when I made a. When do you feel foolish? When do you feel foolish? You may feel foolish, embarrassed, oh, I'm sorry, right? You feel foolish when you make a mistake, right? When you make a mistake, especially in your calculations, sounds like somebody's doing a complex math problem. So they made a mistake. What's another word for mistake? Over here, right? I felt foolish when I made an error in my calculations. You make a mistake in your calculations. Oops, that was dumb. Now I feel foolish. Okay? Next one. 8. If a place is beep, then you shouldn't go because you might get hurt. You might get hurt. It's a dangerous place. What's another word for dangerous? Of course, it has the same ending as dangerous. We're looking at this word. If a place is hazardous, then you shouldn't go because you might get hurt. Remember, hazardous is a dangerous place or situation. In this case, it's a place. If a place is hazardous, don't go there. You might get hurt. And hazardous means the same thing as dangerous. Okay, well that wraps up the vocabulary section of this lesson. Let's take a short break. We'll come back and do the reading. Hello and welcome back. Are you ready to start in on the reading section? We've learned a lot of words. Now let's see how they're used in the reading section. Let's take a look here. Let's read together. Who is the worker of the year? Here are some clues. This worker is never fatigued. Working all day long is no problem. Okay, well first of all I have to explain this one right here, worker of the year, and we can see that too. That's the title of our lesson. Worker of the year is an expression that companies will use to celebrate or to give some recognition to a certain employee, someone who works really hard. So the worker of the year is the best worker. Cheil choa, right? The best worker. Cheil chon saram. I'm not sure how you say worker in Korean, but the person who works the best, the person who works the hardest is the worker of the year. Maybe sometimes they take their picture and they put up a little plaque and they say worker of the year, best employee, right? So that means worker of the year. Who is the worker of the year? Who is the best worker? Well, we don't know, but here are some clues. We have some information to help us answer this question. Here are some clues. There's 2 clues. One clue is here, right? And 2, well, that's just one clue. We'll see the next one on the next slide. This is one clue. This worker is never fatigued. That means that the worker is never tired, right? So imagine a worker who never gets tired. Working all day long is no problem. This supports that, right? This sentence supports this. This worker is never fatigued, never tired. Working all day is no problem. That's one clue, right? This is another clue. Let's read this. He or she also doesn't need lunch breaks or vacations. Best of all, this worker doesn't make many errors. All the work is done quickly, too. So here are some more clues to help us answer the question, who is the worker of the year? The second clue is they doesn't need lunch breaks or vacations. No resting time, right? Doesn't need any breaks, right? That's kind of also, you know, they're not tired, but, you know, they can work all day long. But in addition to that, they don't need lunch breaks. They don't need to take time off, like I need a week off or 2 weeks off to spend with my family. Don't need that, okay? Best of all, that's another clue. The worker doesn't make many errors, right? Well, people make errors. Everybody makes mistakes. This worker makes some mistakes, but not many. Not many means very few. So, uh-oh, what was that? Okay, I just made a mistake. I made an error. Okay, but anyway, very few. Very few. So very few, not make many errors. Very few errors. Very few mistakes. Just a few, okay? Nobody or nothing is perfect, right? People will always make mistakes, but this worker makes very few mistakes, doesn't make many errors. All of the work is done quickly, too. So that's another clue. These are all things that tell us who the best worker is, right? Somebody who doesn't need our rest time. Somebody who doesn't need breaks or vacations. Someone who doesn't make many errors. And somebody who does something very quickly. So who is this amazing person, right? Well, actually, maybe it's not a person. Check it out. Every factory owner wants a worker like this. More things can be made and sold if workers never stop to rest. That's why the worker of the year is a robot. Today, more and more robots are put to work. So it's not a person, it's a robot, right? Now, every factory owner, people own factories, right? And every person who owns a factory wants a worker like that, like we just saw, all those clues. Somebody who never gets tired, someone who doesn't need a lunch break or vacation, someone who doesn't make many errors, someone who does their work quickly. Every factory owner wants a worker like that, right? Because more things can be made and sold if workers never stop to rest. If the factory workers keep working all the time, of course, more products can be made. They can be sold. The factory owners can make more money, okay? So that's why the worker of the year is a robot. Because today more and more robots are put to work because they never stop to rest. They are always working. They're always continually working. Today, more and more, that means there are more and more robots. The number of robots is increasing and increasing and increasing, getting bigger and bigger. There are more and more robots are put to work. Put to work is like an idiomatic expression. I'm going to put it to work. I'm going to use it. I'm going to make it start working. Okay, so that's the answer to our question, who is the worker of the year? Okay, let's read this one together. Most of their work is too hazardous for people to do. We use them to explore volcanoes, oceans, and sometimes other planets. We've even sent robots to Mars. That's cool, right? Okay, so most of their work, we're talking about robots again. Robots are the employee of the year, but they don't just work in factories, right? This tells us that they do other important jobs as well. They don't just make products, right? Because a lot of their work is too hazardous, too dangerous for people to do. What are some examples? To explore volcanoes. Volcanoes, as we know, are very hot places. They're very dangerous. There's a lot of magma inside the volcanoes, right? And lava comes out of the volcano. It's really hot. If it touches us, oh my gosh, we'll get burned. So it's okay for robots to go there, right? We don't worry too much. If the robot is destroyed, we just build another one, right? We don't want it to be destroyed, but it's not a big problem if a person is hurt, right? So explore volcanoes. Under the ocean, really deep in the ocean, it's very dangerous, right? Lots of pressure, no air, and sometimes other planets. Of course, going to another planet is very dangerous and difficult. So we can send robots to do these hazardous things for us, okay? We've even sent robots to Mars. You know that, right? You see it in the news. You can go on the internet and look at cool pictures from Mars that were taken by robots that are rolling around on the surface of Mars. That's really cool, right? So robots can do many dangerous things that people can do them, but it's better if robots do them because people want to stay safe, right? So we can send robots to do them and we can find the information we want and it's much safer. Okay. Robots are our helpers. What are some things you want a robot to help you with? Like most machines, robots are different shapes and sizes. Robots that build cars are very big and strong, right? Okay, so this is kind of another way that robots are used. Robots are also our helpers. Well, yeah, they help us explore, but they can also help us in ordinary things, in everyday life. So, what are some things you want a robot to help you with? I know what you're thinking. You want a robot to do your homework, right? That would be great. But of course you have to do your homework. I'm sorry, because you have to know the information, not your robot. But it'd be great if a robot could do our homework, then we could go out and play with our friends, right? We wouldn't have to do that, reading and studying English and all that other crazy stuff, right? But it's better if we do it because we want that knowledge in our heads. But what are some other things that robots can help you with? Do your parents want you to do work around the house, clean your room, wash the dishes, set the table. Wouldn't it be cool if a robot could do those things? So robots can help us around the house too. Well, like most machines, there are many different types of machines. Robots are one type of machine. But just as machines are big and small in different shapes, robots are big and small in different shapes too, like most machines. Robots are different shapes and sizes. Robots that build cars are very big and strong. Of course, robots that build cars, they have to be really strong. They have to pick big pieces of metal and engines and tires up and move them around. They have to be big and they have to be strong to build a car. This robot is an interesting looking robot, right? This robot doesn't really do much right now. It's kind of an experiment robot, right? Right now, scientists, engineers are working to build a robot that looks like a human being and that can do many things a human being can do. Right now, these robots are good for entertainment. And maybe we can learn from them. They can be used to learn things about certain things because they can program them to say certain things. But these types of robots aren't very practical right now. But they're in the baby stage, right? After 10 years, 20 years, we may see many robots like this doing actual work and helping people in their everyday lives. So that's pretty cool. That's something to look forward to, isn't it? Okay. That's one type of robot. It's certain size, a certain shape, okay? But when we're talking about the car robots, coming back to that, when we talk about the car robots, have to pick up heavy things. Like I said, they have to pick up engines, they have to pick up car tires, pick up car doors. So the robots that build cars have to pick up heavy things. They have to be big and strong. Okay, but robots can be small too. Some small robots are vacuum cleaners. They are small so they can go around chairs and tables while cleaning. Many robots can only do one job, but they do it very well. Okay, so in this part, it's kind of the tail end, the back end of talking about car robots, right? And we stop right here, and then we start talking about another type of robot, a smaller type of robot. Not car robots, but we're talking about, robots can be small too. And then we see an example. An example of that is some small robots are vacuum cleaners. Did you know that? I don't know if you have one in your home, but we talked about vacuum cleaners, right? Your mom will use the vacuum cleaner. It's really noisy and sometimes you don't like that noise, but hey, it's better to have a clean house, right? Sometimes mom says, hey, why don't you help me use the vacuum cleaner? And you use the vacuum cleaner, but you have to do it yourself. But if it's a robot, it does that work for you. Great. And they're small little robots. They're usually round and they're small and they're on the ground, but they need to be small. They are small so. They are small in order to. They are small because they can go around chairs and tables while cleaning. Think about it. They have to go under the chair and are under the table, so they have to be small. And you don't want them to be too big because then they can't get under your furniture, right? So when they go around and they clean, so they are small. Many robots can only do one job, and that's true. A lot of machines are designed to do only one thing. A car is designed for only one job, to transport you and your things from one place to another. That's only one thing. Cars can't help you surf the internet, right? They only help you drive. Computers really only do one thing. They help you get information and store information, right? Well, two things maybe. They store information and they help you get information. But basically it's one thing. You're storing the information on them. And they can also be used to process that information also. So usually many robots can only do one thing. We build robots to do one task, one type of work, right? But they do it very well. Those robots do that one task very well. So maybe in the future they will build robots that can do many tasks, right? Not just clean, but also do something else. And that's coming, I'm sure, in the future. Okay, so how does a robot know what to do? That's a good question. There's a computer inside that directs it. Today, robots do simple jobs, but that could change soon. Robots that can drive cars are being built and tested. So here we find out more about robots. It's a good question to ask, how does a robot know what to do? Because most machines need people, like the vacuum cleaner. It needs a person to know where to go and when to turn on and when to turn off and, exactly where the dust is, right? A person has to direct it. But robots have computers inside them. There's a computer inside that directs the robot, that tells the robot what to do. And that's how robots know what to do. Some robots are very smart, right? They have very strong or powerful computers inside their brains, right? So today, robots do simple jobs. Of course, like we said before, robots just do one job. They're very simple. Like a vacuum cleaner, that's a simple job, right? In a factory that makes cars, one robot picks up a piece of equipment, turns and puts it there. Very simple. It does that all day long, right? And other robots do similar things, but they do very simple tasks. However, that could change soon because, as we know, scientists and engineers are working to improve robots and make robots better, faster, and smarter. An example, robots that can drive. Driving a car is not a simple task. There are many things you have to think about. How fast are you going? When do you slow down? What's that guy over there going to do? Right? They require you to make many decisions very quickly. And you have to be quick and you have to be smart in order to drive a car well. You can't daydream or you can't be lazy, right? You have to pay attention. So driving a car is not a simple job. But robots that can drive cars are being built and tested right now. And that's a complex task, right? That is a complex task. Driving a car is a complex task, but robots that can drive cars are being built and tested. How are they going to do that? We'll find out in a minute, but first let's take a look at a video here of a robot hand. Now check that out. That's pretty cool, isn't it? That's a pretty complex robot right there. A robot that can imitate a human being's hand, to close the hand and open it. Now, if a robot has these different appendages, the robot can pick up and do many things with a tool. And that's actually what makes us humans very special, different from any other animal, because we can pick up things and we can use tools with our hands, right? Dogs can't pick up things, they don't have thumbs, right? Dolphins don't have arms or fingers, right? So they can't use tools, okay? But human beings are special, and if robots are copying human beings like this, then maybe one day robots can do what human beings can do. Okay, but let's come back to the reading passage and talk about robots that can drive cars. So, we might ask, how can a robot drive without eyes? It's a good question too. Well, these robots take many pictures as they drive. The computer looks at each picture to see where the other cars are. These robots are very complex. They do not work perfectly yet, but someday they might. Okay, let's go over this. We start off here with a question, right? We were talking about robots that can drive cars. That's a very complex, not a simple task. It's a very difficult task. So how can they drive without eyes? They can't see. How do they know when the next car is coming? How can they see the other cars on the road and know what those cars are doing? Well, the answer is these robots take many pictures. They take many pictures. That's our answer, right? These robots take many pictures. That's how they can see. While they're driving, they're right, very fast. It's probably like video, really. They're taking pictures, and the computer can analyze those pictures, right? The computer looks at each picture. So the computer can look at the picture, and the computer can make a decision, because the computer is looking to see where the other cars are. Where are the other cars? You don't want to hit them, right? So, of course, these robots are very complex. There's many parts, there's many moving parts, there's a lot of software programs inside that computer that can be able to analyze or look at many different situations and be able to make a decision, right? So it has to be a very complex computer, a very complex robot. So they do not work. They, of course, talking about the robots that drive cars, they do not work perfectly yet. And we don't see any cars on the road that are driven by robots. It's kind of dangerous when you think about it, because they don't work perfectly yet. They are not perfect. They make mistakes, right? But someday they might. So it's possible in the future. As we know, computers get stronger and better every year, right? If you look back only 20 years ago, think about, well, you weren't alive then, but if I think about computers 20 years ago, they were nothing compared to the computers now, right? Computers now are much more powerful and smaller than computers 20 years ago. What will it be like 20 years from now, right? It's a very interesting and exciting question, right? Someday, computers and robots might be powerful enough and smart enough to be able to drive a car. You just get in a car and say, take me to the airport, and you can read a book while the car drives you. Wouldn't that be great, right? Okay, let's do the reading comprehension questions. Okay, the first one, of course, is what is the story about? That's typical, right? So this story is about beep. What is it about? What were we reading about in this passage? Were we reading about robots, workers, machines, or computers? It's kind of a tricky question, right? Because we're talking about a type of machine, right? What type of machine? Robots. Robots are a type of machine, right? So we were talking about, wouldn't it be great? Well, first of all, we were talking about what's the best worker of the year, right? Robots are the best workers. And what do robots do? They go to different places. They can explore dangerous places. They can also do things in our daily lives, like vacuum cleaners. They can be vacuum cleaners. They can drive cars by themselves one day. So we're talking about robots. Robots are the specific type of machine we're talking about. Machine is too broad, so we can narrow it down. We should say robots. We're not talking about workers, right? We're not talking about people, and we're not talking about computers. Computers are a part of the robots, okay? But what we're talking about in this passage, the overall subject is robots. Yes, computers are inside robots, but we're not talking about how computers work and different types of computers. We're talking about different types of robots. Okay, so robots is the best answer for this question. Number 2, a beep tells a robot what to do. We kind of talked about that just before, and we see many of the similar answers here, right? A person tells a robot what to do? Well, no, people don't tell robots all the time what to do, right? It's not people who are telling them what to do. One person tells something inside the robot what to do, and then that thing takes over, right? A car tells a robot what to do? No, a car doesn't tell a robot what to do. A computer, that's our answer. A computer, we said, is inside a robot. The computer inside the robot tells, or we learn that word, direct. So a computer directs a robot on what to do. Well, you can't really use directs here. A computer directs a robot, and then just stop. You don't need to say what to do with direct, okay? So a computer directs a robot. Not a machine, because that doesn't make sense. A robot is a machine, right? So a computer, it's the computer inside the machine that is the robot that tells the robot what to do. So a computer tells a robot what to do. You could say, yes, a person programs the computer, but so yeah, a person tells a computer what to do, and then the computer tells a robot what to do, but the person just tells the computer once. Then the computer tells a robot what to do every time. Okay? 3, robots that are being built to drive cars are what? Are very small, can be hazardous, can be complex, use eyes to drive. What is the best answer here? Robots that are being built to drive cars are very small. Did we talk about that? Did they say anything about the size of the robots that are able to drive cars? They didn't say anything about the size, so that's not appropriate. Robots that are being built to drive to drive cars can be hazardous. Did we say anything about that in the passage? They didn't really talk about that in the passage. They didn't say that they could be hazardous. Maybe I said that, but they didn't say that in the passage. So that's not the answer. Drive cars can be very complex. They have to be complex, right? Because they have to be able to make all these decisions, look around, understand the situation, and make a decision. They have to be very complex, and we saw that in the reading. Use eyes to drive? No. Robots don't have eyes, right? And that was a question. How can a robot drive a car if it doesn't have eyes? So it doesn't have eyes. That's the wrong answer. So the right answer is robots that are being built to drive cars can be complex. Okay, next one, number 4. We use robots to do hazardous work like what? What in the reading passage was hazardous work? Specifically in the passage it said it was hazardous work. Driving cars? The passage didn't say that driving cars is hazardous. I said that, right? But the passage didn't say that. B, exploring volcanoes. That was one example of how robots can do hazardous things instead of people. So B is our answer, right? Exploring volcanoes. C, vacuuming is not dangerous. I don't know how you're going to get in trouble. Well, maybe it's dangerous if you do it badly. Your mother will get angry at you. That could be hazardous, right? But usually it's not hazardous. Okay, cleaning cars is not hazardous either. Again, unless you do it badly and your dad gets angry with you. But usually vacuuming, cleaning cars are not hazardous. The passage didn't say that driving cars is hazardous, but the passage did say that exploring volcanoes is a hazardous job that robots do instead of human beings. So B is the answer there. Okay, let's review here. We're talking about robots in this lesson, and there are many things that we learned about robots. Robots are really cool machines, and it's really exciting because you are going to live to see robots do a lot more amazing things. But we found out that robots that build cars are very big and strong. These are robots here that are building cars. You can see part of the car right there. That's a very big robot, and there's many of them in this factory. They have to pick up heavy things, right? Like the engine. Looks like this robot is putting the engine in a car. So they have to pick up heavy things. I can't pick up a car engine. Well, it's too heavy. But robots can. Okay. Robots can be small too. Robots aren't just always big and strong. They can also be small. Some small robots are vacuum cleaners. That was the other example we looked at. And that's a nice thing that robots can do around your home. I don't know if you have a robot in your house that does your vacuuming, but maybe someday you will. Maybe someday soon. And many robots can only do one job. Like we said, robots are only programmed to do one thing at a time. But maybe in the future, robots will do many things, multitasking, right? Like computers became multitasking. They can do more than one program at a time. Someday in the future, maybe robots can do more than one job at a time or switch from job to job. That will be very interesting. So the future is very interesting, especially when we look at machines and robots. What will happen in 10 years, 20 years? Well, maybe you will work in this field. It's a good field to get into, right? If you want to be an engineer or scientist someday in your future, you can work on robots as well. Well, anyway, that's something to think about. Hope you've learned a lot in this lesson, you guys. Take care. See you later.